Thank you, and good afternoon. It's always great to go after a big lunch, and everybody's kind of tired. But so maybe we can wake up. Good afternoon, everybody. All right. Good afternoon. All right. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. You know, actually, during these times, I appreciate being anywhere, and so I've been kind of stuck in my office for the last few months and under very restricted circumstances. So it's an honor and a pleasure to be here today with you. You know, when Jeff called me about this, and let me just say that you know, this organization could not have a better leader than Jeff Aiken. Pardon it. I mean, he's done a tremendous job, you know, along with Radonna and the entire staff. I want you to know that they have a continuous open door to my office, and I would say, by the way, that they've used it a few times in the last couple of years. And so we appreciate the relationship that we have. So, you know, I appreciate being here because, you know, we're not doing a lot of meetings, and I appreciate y'all taking the precautions to make sure that we do this on a socially distanced basis, and everybody has their masks that I see. But I wanted to make you aware that if you wondered what socially distanced looked like, I want to borrow something from our Commissioner of Agriculture, Charlie Hatcher, to show you. All right? So you should be at least a cow's length apart, as shown here by a local farmer. And Charlie looks a lot like you, I have to say, on the right. And that's his little grandson Hatcher, along with him. So, you know, the word agriculture is right there in the middle of our state seal. And it's there for a reason, because, as our governor has said, without agriculture, there would be no commerce in Tennessee. So sometimes, you know, it's been said that a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I kind of like that, because usually a picture can't lie. Picture shows what it shows and is usually better than words. And so I don't know if the cows know where they're headed, but the guy behind them there knows where he's headed. And, you know, he was a farmer, and he came from a farming family before he ran for governor, and he recognizes that agriculture and forestry are extremely important to our state and our quality of life in Tennessee. He recognizes and understands the need to support our food supply system that this pandemic has certainly tested over the last few months. But I can assure you that even as we deal with that pandemic, that this administration will continue to focus on rural issues that are important to our state. So this is a picture, as I like to talk in pictures. This is a picture of a testing site down in Memphis the governor visited a few weeks ago. You know, so as you can tell, and everybody in this room knows, we are battling on two fronts. Most of you know that better than most Tennesseans. We're battling on the COVID-19 front from a health standpoint, and we're also battling on a financial challenge standpoint of COVID-19. But we should be thankful because we're in a much better shape than most states, not only around us, but certainly around the country. It's important to remember that many economic challenges of the past have helped us get to the point that we are today. We certainly are a pro-business state, we're a low-tax state, and we are a low-debt state. And our legislators have worked together with our governors over generations to make sure that we've laid the groundwork to be able to sustain and get through this kind of a situation. As Tennessee recovers, we are committed to building on that tradition and to continue to thrive because of our commitment to sound financial management. It's no accident that Business Facility Management magazine, once again, just last month, named us as one of the top 3 states for business climate, and that doesn't happen by accident. It really does happen with the legislature and the governor working together to make life better for business in Tennessee, and we certainly will maintain that. So I grew up actually up the road from here in Cheatham County, and Hank Batts, who would be with you here today, is a great friend of mine that I grew up with and spent probably many nights at his house growing up as I did my own. But understand from Jeff that he had open heart surgery a couple of weeks ago, and so he's not here. So kind of my hearts and prayer go out to him. But growing up in Cheatham County, we played a lot of sports, and at our place, we didn't have much of a backyard, but we had a good side yard, and we had an old basketball goal and enough room to have baseball. And so my Uncle Darwin, who Jeff knows, who some of you may know as well, Darwin Newton, he gave me an important lesson growing up, and that was to keep your eye on the ball. And so in my case, keeping my eye on the ball in Tennessee means ensuring that we do and take the steps that we need to take to make sure that we maintain a balanced budget in Tennessee, which we will do. This little picture here shows you some of the challenges that we faced this year, and that this budget process looked different this year than we've ever seen in the state of Tennessee. So this bottom picture is the Senate Finance Committee, where we were hearing the budget. They were hearing the budget, and that little inset on the top is me talking to them because we were not allowed to be in the same room during that process. And so it was the first time that's ever occurred for sure. Wasn't very easy to do, but it gives you a feel for the process that we had to go through this year. And it's also unprecedented in that we submitted the budget in January. Everything was going along great. Had planned to make a number of additions to the budget this year, and then the pandemic came along. So we ended up actually passing a budget early, taking out several $100 million, leaving, and then as all of you know, coming back also in June again to pass yet another budget where we made a number of other reductions. But as I said, we're in much better position than most states to deal with that. We've had a healthy rainy day fund, and we're one of the least debt states in the nation. So I don't want us to get too geeky today, but I did want you to see a slide that I think is interesting. This came from Dr. Fox up at UT at the Boyd Center. Randy, thank you for that. And, I had a conversation with him yesterday about this, and, there's a lot of different opinions about what the economy is going to do, but we are no doubt experiencing a downturn unlike any that we have seen before. I certainly am not an economist, but what this kind of marks is the recessions of the last 50 years, and you'll see across the line at the top the years. One thing that you have seen happening is the length of time for recessions. Most recessions take many, many years to recover. So at the beginning over there is the pre-recession peak, and then you'll see how the line of that recession came about over the following years. And then you'll see there on the very left-hand side what we're experiencing now in 2020. So we've had by far the largest downfall, the quickest downfall that we've ever seen before. And I looked back in the prior 50 years before that, we still, even back in 1945 during World War II, you did not end up as low as that 13% that we experienced a few weeks ago. Now the good thing is, it's the V shape that has been much talked about by economists around the country. So it's yet to be seen kind of what the length will be, but I think the message from this that I take is that most of our recessions have not been too fast of a recovery. They've spread out at least in the last 50 years for multiple years. And so we expect, and what we're hearing from Dr. Fox and others is that we expect that curve to begin to kind of level out and not go as straight back up and continue, but hopefully it doesn't go out near as long as these that you see here before you. So today we're actually, Farm Bureau is a good place to do it, actually making some news. So even as we sit here, Lola here is about to send out a press release showing our July revenue numbers, which are, in actuality our year-end numbers. And so we're reporting today the close of our fiscal year 2020 year, and that information is being released as we sit here to the public. And interestingly, we are going to close this fiscal year 2.4% above last year. And so you may ask, well, hey, let's give a hand for that first of all right? Most of us aren't feeling that, and there's several reasons for that, and there's some precautionary notes around that. But for number one is in March, as soon as this happened, the governor asked me to take some very precautionary, quick actions to make sure that we were putting ourselves in a better position. Number two, I didn't want to bring a bunch of slides, but if you saw every month prior to March, we were way outperforming in the state. And so that's another big reason that we were able to cover what happened in the last few months. And then third, it goes without saying that the federal stimulus and things that are going on to allow businesses and individuals that have been impacted negatively have made a tremendous positive impact to spending over these last few months that have allowed us to be able to do what we've done. And so in many ways, we've been able to continue to prop up in this short time period the ability to keep the economy flowing. And also, I think the kind of measured approach that the governor took in being able to distinguish between urban and rural and try to make those that could open back up as much as possible. So we got, the good news is we got through this year successfully, ending in June 30. But the focus now for me and our team in the state is looking certainly at how are we going to get through this next fiscal year in 2021. So we're going to continue the approach that I set out during that budget meeting that you saw there, to hope for the best but prepare for the worst, and I think that's the best thing that we can do. This is a picture of the new aviation office out at John Thune Airport. It's a great new facility, but we were having a meeting here of our financial stimulus accountability group, and it's a group of legislators along with our comptroller that the governor appointed to oversee how we spend the coronavirus relief fund. Tennessee got about $2.3 billion out of the federal CARES Act that in essence we're administering. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But, the things that we did back in March helped us to get to a positive position. We ended up freezing new positions. We froze any spending that didn't need to occur. We froze practically all travel to make sure, and all of those things helped us to get through this year end. Commissioner Hatcher's here. Our commissioners and departments did a great job of being creative and trying to find savings everywhere that they could. And then in May, we also asked each of our department to present to me and to the governor 12% reduction plans. Doesn't mean that we're taking all of those reductions, but we believe that it's prudent to have these levers that we can pull over the coming year. So this is Arnold's Restaurant in Nashville. Many of you have probably been there, but Arnold's is a great meat and three, and this is actually a announcement of the financial stimulus group of talking about the business relief fund. And so one of the things that we were able to do because of our efforts this year's budget is that we were able to give communities, our local governments, we're putting $210 million of funds back into our local governments because we know that they are sharing the same headaches and issues that we're facing at the state level. Also, I think it's important to note just from a financial standpoint that we were able to end this year and we were able to fund $15 million into broadband, which is tremendously important to our rural areas. We fully funded the BEP with K through 12. We kept TennCare enrollment at the current level without any cuts, fully funded children's services, and also the state pension, as well as making sure all of our debt service was covered. So we were able to maintain that good fiscal responsibility. The Tennessee Business Relief Program that I alluded to is a great program that we came up with to try to kickstart or give some help to businesses in Tennessee that particularly were targeted or negatively impacted because of close downs or issues that were happening because of the pandemic. We're on track for about $200 million being spent of that 2.3 to go to this fund, and it's about 33,000 businesses all across the state that will be able to participate in that. And that our financial stimulus group, Commissioner Hatcher may mention, but we're working together with the commissioner and with the department to be able to announce soon a relief program that will be specifically targeted to agriculture and forestry businesses that have seen losses during this pandemic. And so keep tuned to that, because you'll be hearing more about it soon. Tennesseans chose to put a governor, to put a farmer in the governor's office. And I can assure you that he is working day in, day out, constantly thinking about how to make life better for every Tennessean, especially those in rural areas, because that's who he is and that's where he comes from. This picture, Charlie, was the day we were down in West Tennessee looking at the flooded farmland back a little over a year ago. And he wanted to go down there firsthand and look at it. You know, I mentioned I grew up in Cheatham County, and I will tell you that it is not lost on me that I can stand in my office, and which is on the northwest corner of the Capitol, and I can kind of look out my window and look across the hills and the valleys out to the farmland where my grandpa worked the soil as a tobacco farmer. And we learn our values and our beliefs when we grow up from our parents, our grandparents, our teachers, and preachers. But one lesson that I learned is the spirit of hard work that comes out of our rural heritage in Tennessee. And as a reminder of that, and all that came before us to make life easier, at least for me, and I know that we still have our challenges, certainly in rural areas. But I keep this tobacco peg in my office every day where I can see it. Now, Jeff just said, this is a nice tobacco peg, but more. Well, my granddaddy had several that weren't quite this nice, but it's been an important reminder for me to recognize how important rural Tennessee is to our quality of life in Tennessee. We accept the fact that the horse and buggy days are gone forever, but that thankful, work-loving man that hitched up his mule to plow his field is still alive and well with every single person in this room today, as well as people, as you know, throughout this great state of Tennessee. Another lesson I learned was that when it came time to cut tobacco and get it in the barn, that the job was too big for any one man or any family, one family. So instead, all the farmers in our community would move together and work together from farm to farm to farm to get the tobacco in the barn. And I would just leave with that thought today, that we need that same kind of community. We need that same kind of working together, leaning on each other, supporting each other. And to me, that's what this organization means and does for all of Tennessee with the Farm Bureau. So it's been a pleasure to be here today, an honor to be here today. Appreciate being with you, and we'll get through this together. Thank you all. We're going to do questions? We're going to do questions?
It might take just a minute. If you
All
have
right.
any questions, text the number on the back of your program.
It's okay if you don't. You can get Charlie up, and then if we have any questions, we could kind of tag team
Okay.
after, if y'all want to do that.
Well,
I may have taken up some of his time
even
anyway.
though we've paused long enough, but thank you for being with us today, and congratulations on pulling out the 2019 and 2020 fiscal year with a 2.4% growth. What are the financial predictions going forward?
Anybody here got their crystal ball? Seriously, I had a conversation with Dr. Fox yesterday, and there are a lot of positive indications. So we kind of went into this year, into this 21 fiscal year, planning on about $1 billion shortfall that we needed to prepare for. Now, fortunately, as I mentioned over and over in this presentation, we've got a number of levers. So, we did great with our departments, had a number of good ideas to be able to help reduce current spending. We've got great reserves in the state to be able to lean on. The problem with those is they're one-time funds, not recurring funds, and so you got to be careful about that. But then, hopefully the biggest thing is that this curve that we talked about keeps moving up as opposed to sideways or down, and all that's yet to be determined. And so we, even the best economists, we met with a number of different ones. There's a lot of variability in where they are, and so the approach that we're going to take over the next few months is continue to be very prudent, very sound in the way we operate, and we're going to go ahead and make some reductions because we don't know what that looks like. And I won't go back to it, but if you go back to 2008, I won't go back to it. If you go back, where we saw back in 2007, I think we had a bump up of about 1.2%, and then we had this big drop for the next 2 years. So just because we finished this year at 2.4 in the black, it really was because we had most of those months outperforming gargantuanly over what we'd estimated. And so that's kind of a non-answer. It's not a great answer, but the answer is we're going to keep our nose to the grindstone and doing things that we need to do to keep us in a position to make sure, as I said, the eye on the ball of balancing the budget by next year. Yeah, okay.
Well, maybe it's a good time, especially a good time, to have a governor that knows agriculture, because what the state's facing is a drought, and many of us in agriculture, we know how to experience those. So I'm sure he's got a team headed to conquer this as best we can. So thank you, Commissioner Eley. We have a commemorative Tennessee Farm Bureau Cotton Bale replica as a token of appreciation. So
Very good.
thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.